Now this may not, I'm gonna hit run, Victor.
Okay.
I'm gonna be warming up for this time being.
Okay.
And
that means we'll just...
it may not be able to handle the encoder. No, here we go. Let's see.
Good morning and welcome to the virtual service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Sheridan. I am Victor Asher. I am the chair of the worship committee and I am the moderator for this month's services. And the theme for this month is Salvation Wholeness. I'm going to ask if there are any announcements, and while you chat those in, I will say a few more words. I want you to know that Kate Sherwood prepared the service and would have been here this morning to deliver it were it not for the pandemic and the bad weather. Kate and her husband John live in Buffalo. Kate informed me that the meditation teacher Eckhart Tolle and the Course in Miracles were her salvation, and she wanted to share some of that with us today. Thank you, Kate. We also want to acknowledge that other people of faith around the country and around the world are celebrating Easter and Passover and Ramadan. Even with the pandemic, people everywhere are continuing to worship and to hold hope for a better time as we do here. Are there any announcements from the chat?
I will just say, as folks come online and say good morning, Barbara Walter said, thinking of how difficult it might have been for the presenters to get to UU today. Special thanks on this snowy Easter morning. Very happy to be here. So I don't see any other announcements so far.
So I have some opening words, and these are the words of Eckhart Tolle. Awareness is the power that is concealed within the present moment. This is why we may also call it presence. The ultimate purpose of human existence, which is to say your purpose, is to bring that power into this world. We were hoping to have morning music this morning in the form of Neil Young's video, Be the Rain, but unfortunately we couldn't make that happen. So we'll move directly into lighting the chalice. And so I will read the chalice lighting. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, to serve human needs, and to help one another.
I'll just share a joy while people send in some joys and concerns. I was able to participate in a Seder on Thursday evening with some friends in New York. The powers of technology, and that was a real joy, and it left me feeling very connected, even though it's a time of social distance. So that was really wonderful.
Robert Tilden says, good morning and happy Easter, Ramadan, Passover. And Marie Lowe says, happy Easter to those who celebrate.
What's that?
Do you want to share those?
Oh, no, I'm just seeing some things come in. So from Catherine Johnson, my joy is welcoming my sister-in-law, Kathy, joining us from Texas. Love to all. We've got another one from Matt egging. The curtains and lighting are wonderful. Nice staging, y'all. A joy. Naomi and Katie had a great time this morning hunting eggs in the snow. That's a wonderful image. Sue Roberts says, good morning. Happy pagan fertility ritual.
Okay, let's add that one. Can't leave the pagans out, you know.
No, you cannot. Let's see. Cameo says, joy for having passed exam 3 in my pathophysiology class.
Yay!
Congratulations, Cameo.
Wow, I
Joy
can barely
free.
say that. That's impressive. Okay.
If there are no more, I will light one more candle for joys and concerns, unspoken, but felt in the heart. Let's see. And I think what we have next is a story for all ages, and it's a Zen story, and Ian will kindly read that for us.
Buddha told this parable. A traveler, fleeing a tiger who was chasing him, ran till he came to the edge of a cliff. There he caught hold of a thick vine and swung himself over the edge. Above, the tiger snarled. Below him, he heard another snarl, and behold, there was another tiger peering up at him. The vine suspended him midway between two tigers. Two mice, a white mouse and a black mouse, began to gnaw at the vine. He could see they were quickly eating it through. Then, in front of him on the cliffside, he saw a luscious bunch of grapes. Holding on to the vine with one hand, he reached and picked a grape with the other. How delicious!
How's that for living in the present? All right, let's see here. Okay, we'll begin our time of meditation. And let's see. Let's see if I can find the meditation. Please bear with me. Here we are. After this meditation, we'll have a moment of silence to be followed by singing Spirit of Life. Humanity was destined to go beyond suffering, but not in the way the ego thinks. One of the ego's many erroneous assumptions, one of its many deluded thoughts is, I should not have to suffer. That thought itself lies at the root of suffering. Suffering has a noble purpose, the evolution of consciousness, the awakening, and the burning up of the ego. The man on the cross is an archetypal image. He is every man and every woman. As long as you resist suffering, it is a slow process because the resistance creates more ego to burn up. When you accept suffering, however, there is an acceleration of that process which is brought about by the fact that you suffer consciously. You can accept suffering for yourself, or you can accept it for someone else, such as your child or parent. In the midst of conscious suffering, there is already transmutation. the fire of suffering becomes the light of consciousness. Kate had a video of Tolle prepared for this morning for us, but because it was copyrighted, we were not able to show it this morning. However, I will put the link out for those who want to see it. For now, I have a reading from Tolle's book, A New Earth. The chapter is called Who You Think You Are. In terms of our theme, salvation and wholeness, the idea here is that when we can experience consciousness beyond the ego, we find salvation. And please bear with me as I read this. I'll be switching pages around in my email here, so it might be a little bit challenging in places, but just bear with me if you would. So this chapter is called Who You Think You Are. Your sense of who you are determines what you perceive as your needs and what matters to you in life, and whatever matters most to you will have the power to upset and disturb you. You can use this as a criterion to find out how deeply you know yourself. What matters to you is not necessarily what you say or believe, but what your actions and reactions reveal as important and serious to you. So you may want to ask yourself the question, what are the things that upset and disturb me? If small things have the power to disturb you, then who you think you are is exactly that, small. That will be your unconscious belief. What are small things? Ultimately, all things are small things because all things are transient. You might say, I know I am an immortal spirit, or I am tired of this mad world and peace is all I want. Until the phone rings. Bad news. The stock market has collapsed. The deal may fall through. The car has been stolen. Your mother-in-law has arrived. The trip is canceled. The contract has been broken. Your partner has left you. They demand more money. They say it's your fault. Suddenly, there is a surge of anger, of anxiety. A harshness comes into your voice. I can't take this! You accuse and blame, attack, defend, or justify yourself. And it's all happening on autopilot. Something is obviously much more important to you now than the inner peace that a moment ago you said was all you wanted. And you're not an immortal spirit anymore. The deal, the money, the contract, the loss or the threat of loss are more important. To whom? To the immortal spirit that you said you are? No, to me, the small me that seeks security or fulfillment in things that are transient and gets anxious or angry because it fails to find it. Well, at least you know who you really are, or who you really think you are. If peace is really what you want, then you will choose peace. If peace mattered to you more than anything else, and if you truly knew yourself to be a spirit rather than a little me, you would remain non-reactive and absolutely alert when confronted with challenging people or situations. You would immediately accept the situation and thus become one with it rather than separate yourself from it. Then, out of your alertness would come a response. Who you are, consciousness, not who you think you are, a small me, would be responding. It would be powerful and effective, and it would make no person or situation into an enemy. The world always makes sure that you cannot fool yourself for long about who you really think you are by showing you what truly matters to you. How you react to people and situations, especially when challenges arise, is the best indicator of how deeply you know yourself. The more limited, the more narrowly egoic the view of yourself, the more you will see, focus on, and react to the egoic limitations, the unconsciousness in others. Their faults, or what you perceive as their faults, become to you their identity. This means you will see only the ego in them and thus strengthen the ego in yourself. Instead of looking through the ego in others, you will be looking at the ego. Who is looking at the ego? The ego is you. Very unconscious people experience their own ego through its reflection in others. When you realize that what you react to in others is also in you, and sometimes only in you, you begin to become aware of your own ego. At that stage, you may also realize that you were doing to others what you thought others were doing to you. You cease seeing yourself as a victim. You are not the ego, so when you become aware of the ego in you, it does not mean that you know who you are. It means that you know who you are not. But it is through knowing who you are not that the greatest obstacle to truly knowing yourself is removed. Nobody can tell you who you are. It would just be another concept, so it would not change you. Who you are requires no belief. In fact, every belief is an obstacle. It does not even require your realization. since you already are who you are. But without realization, who you are does not shine forth into this world. It remains in the unmanifested, which is, of course, your true home. You are then like an apparently poor person who does not know that he has a bank account with $100 million in it, and so his wealth remains an unexperienced potential. Who you think you are is also intimately connected with how you see yourself treated by others. Many people complain that others do not treat them well enough. I don't get any respect, attention, recognition, acknowledgement, they say. I am being taken for granted. When people are kind, they suspect hidden motives. Others want to manipulate me, take advantage of me. Nobody loves me. Who they think they are is this. I am a needy little me whose needs are not being met. This basic misperception of who they are creates dysfunction in all their relationships. They believe they have nothing to give and that the world or other people are withholding from them what they need. Their entire reality is based on the illusory sense of who they are. It sabotages situations, mars all relationships. If the thought of lack, whether it be money, recognition, or love, has become part of who you think you are, you will always experience lack. Rather than acknowledging the good that is already in your life, all you see is lack. Acknowledging the good that already exists in your life is the foundation of all abundance. The fact is, whether you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from the world. You are withholding because deep down you think you are small and that you have nothing to give. Try this for a couple of weeks and see how it changes your reality. Whenever you think people are withholding from you praise, appreciation, assistance, loving care, and so on, give it to them. You don't have it? Just act as if you had it, and it will come. Then, soon after you start giving, you will start receiving. You cannot receive what you don't give. Outflow determines inflow. Whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you already have. But unless you allow it to flow out, you won't even know that you have it. This includes abundance. The law that outflow determines inflow is expressed by Jesus in this powerful image. Quote, "Give it and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, it will be put into your lap." End quote. The source of all abundance is not outside you, it is part of who you are. However, start by acknowledging and recognizing abundance without. See the fullness of life all around you, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the display of magnificent flowers outside the florist's shop, biting into succulent fruit, or getting soaked in the abundance of water falling from the sky. The fullness of life is there at every step. The acknowledgement of that abundance that is all around you awakens the dormant abundance within. Then let it flow out. When you smile at a stranger, there is already, a minute outflow of energy. You become a giver. Ask yourself often, what can I give here? How can I be of service to this person or this situation? You don't need to own anything to feel abundant, although if you feel abundant consistently, things will almost certainly come to you. Abundance comes only to those who already have it. It sounds almost unfair, but of course it isn't. It is a universal law. Both abundance and scarcity are inner states that manifest as your reality. Jesus put it like this, quote, "For to the one who has, more will be given, and from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away." End quote. And that's the end of the reading. And if you will join now in singing, I've got peace like a river.
Oops.
I meant to add the following, that these are Kate's words regarding the reading that I gave a few minutes ago. So please allow me to add that now. The topic of salvation is not one I would normally have picked, but it has made me think. I do not believe we are born in sin. The opposite seems true to me. Babies seem to be full of light and love and closer to God than adults. Therefore, I do not believe it is necessary to be saved in the traditional Christian sense. To me, Jesus was a man who was an example of enlightenment and how we can also achieve it. He was a way shower. His life, death, and resurrection taught how we can transcend the pain of this world and come from a place of awareness. I believe Jesus was intuitive, psychic, and connected to divine intelligence and love. He was misunderstood in his life and afterwards. There are Christians who are guided by his life. There are Christians who are guided in life by their faith. I have respect for them, but my views of Jesus and his life are not typical Christian views. My views are different, and I am not out to change anyone's views, but only to work on myself. I think that if we each does in our own work to find the presence and spirit of love that Jesus or any other prophet or holy person found, we can transcend the pain of this world. Today's Tolle reading was an example of one way, and there are many ways, to get in touch with awareness and become more present. I hope it might have been helpful or have inspired you during these challenging times. May we love each other and practice being in the moment and come out of these times with more peace and love. And I guess at this point, I will invite all of you to visit the Tithely to make a donation, or if you like, you can send a check to Ramona Stein, and you can see the address and the order of service in the email message that I sent you regarding the service this morning. Okay. And now, if you will, recite with me, blessing the offering. Let this be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is so sacred to many of us, a community of memory and hope, for we are the keepers of the dream. And we're certainly keeping the dream alive while we operate in this virtual manner. So I have a few closing words, and these come from the Course in Miracles. There's just a few words here. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And now I will invite those of you that would like to make a comment or ask a question, do that. And I'm hoping that Kate will be participating so that she can answer questions, and I will try to facilitate.
I'll come in.
Little delay.
We've got a 30-second delay.
But I'll make an offering, and I'll stand right here too.
Okay.
I really appreciated the talk, and I love the idea of looking at what it is that you resist, and what that can teach you about yourself, what you resist in other people. I've found that to be really useful. I also want to say, in light of that, I resisted an idea in the piece about if you are not receiving something you need, that you should give it out into the world. And I do believe in giving out into the world what you wish to receive back, but I have found myself many times in certain relationships giving out and just giving and giving and giving and never quite receiving that back. So I have found that I've revised that to be mindful of giving it to myself, maybe, right? So putting out into the world what you need, but at the same time, that maybe that's that self-care idea of like making sure that you are receiving what you need from somewhere, because you can end up really giving a lot and being kind of in a place of scarcity. So
Thank you for sharing that, Grace. For those of you who don't know, that was Grace Cannon, and she's been very helpful in setting up our virtual services. So, and that's a great comment. Maybe there'll be some reactions to that as well. I think what you said certainly speaks to my own experience as well. I think the spiritual and the psychological for me, they blend together very well, and the idea of being open to generosity and to giving to the world what you want back, it makes good psychological sense, and it certainly makes good spiritual sense. So anyway, that's my reaction. Maybe Kate has a reaction, so we'll see.
I'll share. Katherine Johnson wrote, "Thanks for the powerful words, Kate. I can relate and appreciate the journey."
Well, I just wondered about the idea of the unconscious as a sort of more in like psychological terms. So I feel like Eckhart Tolle is talking about it more in spiritual terms. And I'm kind of curious about the view that the unconscious is not something to be judgmental of, like, so sort of Jung's shadow, right? That deeply unconscious part of ourselves that can be really problematic when it lashes out. But Jung also said that that is where the treasure really is in yourself, but it takes facing it.
Yeah.
Right? It takes bringing it into the light.
Yes, and I think both Tolle, from what I understand, I'm not an expert on Tolle, and Jung had expressed a similar idea that embedded in the unconscious is both our troubles, but also our salvation, right? So the real, Tolle was talking about our genuine spiritual self is also unconscious, right? And we just have to discover that. If we can move the ego out of the way, we get to experience what he calls this our spiritual self, or our real self, or our genuine nature, our purpose. And I think that's very much in keeping with the Jungian idea of the unconscious, because it not only includes our troubles, it includes our wisdom. And that's where I think Freud and Jung parted company. Yeah, because Freud only saw the troubles in the unconscious. He didn't see the spiritual dimension of the unconscious. Yeah. Are there other comments? Okay.
They're all just wowed.
Okay. Well, so I think we'll have a relatively short service this morning. And I'm sorry we didn't get all of the elements in that we wanted to, but I hope that it was still a value for you this morning. And again, I'd like to thank Kate for providing these materials for us to think about and to hopefully grow from. And with that, I will read the extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And hopefully we will be together again next Sunday, probably in this format. And at that time, Michelle Ligori will have a service for us on the theme of salvation wholeness. And so hopefully enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, I have one technical announcement.
By all means.
Okay. So thank you, Chris Corfonta. I just got an email from her that said she'd been attempting to put in chats or comments. And without you letting me know if something isn't working, there's known knowns and known unknowns and unknown unknowns. So to quote the great Donald Rumsfeld. So if you could let me know if you're attempting to comment and it's not working, or even if you're not quite sure like how to get the chat function to work and you'd like to, please reach out either to someone who can get in touch with me or to me in whatever way you can, and we'll try to iron out some of these issues. So today we're trying a new format where I've got multiple feeds able to go through kind of like a routing system in this program. And so that allowed us to share those songs more nicely. But if that's getting in the way of other things, then I'll keep trying to refine that. So, okay, thank you all so much. This is an adventure for all of us here.
And thank you again, Ian, for all that you do for us.
No problem.
So,
All right.
happy whatever you're celebrating today. All right.
I'll be honest.
All right. Good job, you guys.
Thank you.
I think we click